I'm Eric Duncan, member of Beta Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And today we're hosting a virtual career day with Mega Genesis, our 15th Mega Genesis event here in Savannah. Today, I have retired Judge James Bass, and he's going to talk to us about a career in law. So to get it started off, thank you, Judge Bass, for being with us today. And I guess I'll start with how long have you been in the law profession?
Well, it's not an easy question to answer that for me because it goes back quite a bit of time, even before I went to law school. Between college and law school, I worked for 2 years. And during that 2-year interval, I worked as a court assistant in the family court in Brooklyn for about a year and a half. And after that, I worked as a court officer in the criminal court in Brooklyn before I went to law school. And law school requires 3 years of training education. And after law school, I began working with Georgia Legal Services as a staff attorney. I worked there for a couple of years and then went to private practice for about 3 years and then came back to Georgia Legal Services as a supervising attorney before I was appointed by the governor in 1995 to the Superior Court. There was Governor Zell Miller who appointed me to the bench, and I finally had to run.
Okay. So where did you get your undergraduate degree from, and where did you go to law school at?
Okay, I received my undergraduate degree in 1972 from Rider University. It's a kind of small school, liberal arts with emphasis on business education. It's located in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. And after graduation, I said I worked for 2 years, and then went to law school at Cornell University and finished there in 1977. I was there at Cornell from 74 to 77.
Okay. So Judge Bass, what led you to how did you pick law that early in your life?
Well, it really didn't come early. I think things change in terms of career goals and opportunities as you go along in life. And so when I graduated from college, going to law was the last thing in my mind. I really wanted to teach history on the college level. So I actually applied to a graduate program at Georgetown. Got accepted there. I was going to go to that program, and then I decided maybe being a college professor doesn't offer quite the same opportunities as being a lawyer. So I made a career change. I made a decision to change my career goals at that point, and decided to apply to law school. And so I'm really glad I did because I think being a college professor is fulfilling, but being a lawyer is so much more fulfilling because there's so many things you can do as a lawyer, and not just being a litigator, a courtroom lawyer, but lawyers do so much beyond trying cases in the courtroom. They're involved in every aspect of society. I always consider lawyers being the thread that binds society together, and because it dictates how we are to behave as human beings. And so all behavior is really guided by law or some regulation of some sort. So fantastic way to make life work.
How has technology changed from when you graduated to you just retired in respect to law?
Unbelievable. When I graduated from law school, in terms of doing legal research, we had to do everything by, looking at researching by actually going through various treaties and going through various digests of law. And now we can go by computer and do our research by using either internet service or some law on disk, which is like a compact disk to do our legal research. And it's so much faster. I mean, before it was very laborious. I mean, you had to go from one set of books to another set of books to try to find the answer. And this way you just can, if you type in a search word and come up with your answer just like that. I mean, it's just a totally different way of practicing law in a much better way, much more efficient way, especially for the clients, I think.
Okay. So if there's a young student out there, what type of skills should they try to possess or try to ascertain now before they pick a college? What skills are really great for somebody looking to go into law, since there's so many different paths?
Yeah. I know a lot of people think or under the perception that, you know, good oratory skills are important. Being a good debater is important. Well, that's a part of it. But I think it's more important to be a good writer because, most of your analysis is in the form of written briefs, which are read by the courts who have to decide issues. And so being a better writer, as far as I'm concerned, is more important than being an orator because decision making of most cases is really decided upon written analysis. And oral analysis can flesh out things that you write, but it's the writing itself that is the core that the courts look at in making decisions. So literary skills, I think, are very important. Reading and writing. When you get to law school, you do a lot of reading. I mean, a lot of reading and a lot of writing. So I would think maybe an English major might be a good way of developing that skill, more than being a major in political science or history like I was. Being a major in English and taking some course in creative writing.
Okay, so what was a typical work day like for you being a judge?
Well, in the court that I preside over, there was 5 other judges besides myself, and we had a rotating schedule where we'd have 2 weeks devoted to doing criminal trials, 2 weeks devoted to doing civil trials. 1 week we spent in our chambers really working on briefs and developing orders. And the other week we have non-jury trials and mostly civil cases. And so we rotated the 6 of us on the schedule. And usually we begin work for me. It all depends on the day of the week. On Tuesdays, especially, I start very early because I'm the presiding drug court judge, and so we start having our staffing component with the health professionals maybe about 6:30 to 7 o'clock, and then we start court about 8 o'clock, and then from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, I would have personal interviews and personal court with the drug court participants. After that, then I start my other calendar, which could be civil trials, it could be criminal trials, it could be bench trials. But the typical calendar, other than on Tuesdays, we start work sometime between 8:30 to 9 o'clock. Initially, we'd have bond hearings. After the bond hearings, usually last about an hour, half an hour or so. Then we have the regular calendar, whether it's civil or criminal. But it all depends on what our assignment is for the week.
Okay. So Judge Bass, tell me, what did you like the best and the least about your job?
The thing I like the best about the job is that I had an opportunity to work in an alternative court system in which we try to, rather than be involved in the prosecution of individuals with drug-related offenses, to get them involved in treatment and therapy under court supervision. And to me, that was the most satisfying part of the job because I could see people really make a change in their lives. I mean, they come in having a history of drug abuse, their personal lives are being in shambles, and then with the court involvement and the treatment system we had up, people really began to live different quality types of lives that reunite with the families. For a lot of people, they became productive workers. And so we actually did a lot, I think, preserving family structure. So that was the most satisfying. The least satisfying to me was, hate to say this, was doing divorce cases.
Oh, wow.
Uh, um, it, it's it's kind of agonizing for a judge to have to decide, which parent ought to have custody of children. Um, and it's a very complex, difficult decision in many cases. And you have to look at what's best for the child. Of course, we got it by that. But the human element and the other factors that go into play uh, by the parents themselves, sometimes really presents a disservice to the children. So you had to kind of separate all that stuff out and do what you think is best for the child. But that to me is the most trying aspect, and kept me up late at nights thinking about what's the best thing to do for this child or children. It's not easy. Not
Okay.
easy. Yeah.
I know we're gonna have a lot of students, and one of the main questions they always ask, what's the salary range of a lawyer?
It all depends on the kind of practice you're in. Some lawyers, are the top earners in society. I mean, and those are people who are established law firms in a lot of cities like New York, Houston, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and those are transactional lawyers. They usually work for corporations, banks,
Mhm.
insurance companies, and they do quite well. But I don't think that should be the driving force, the motivating force that a student ought to have. We think about practicing law. I think you need to decide what you like to do, what you think is the most satisfying, and hopefully making money is not the most satisfying. Hopefully, helping people out ought to be the most satisfying thing that you might want to do in life. Because I think lawyers who are really dedicated to the profession go into it for the purpose of helping people.
Okay. It sounds like you need to find something that you're passionate about, because if you make a lot of money, you can still be unhappy.
That's right. Excellent. 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 And if money's your driving force, well, that's all good. But to me, that's not personally satisfying. Um, to me, what's personally satisfying, to me anyway, is being able to influence the life of others and making their lives much better than what they were before they came in contact with you. If you could do that, then that certainly makes life satisfying. And I think you do a lot in terms of fulfilling what our God has asked us to do. So I know that's what I find to me is being the most important thing.
Okay. Um, Judge Batt, what advice would you give a young student who's interested in a career of law?
Well, to get into law school, you had to be a good student in college. So that means you had to get some very good grades. That means you had to work hard in college in terms of your academic performance. And then there's like everything else, you're always tested to determine your proficiency. So to get in law school, you have to take an entrance exam. It's called the law school LSATs, law school scholastic aptitude test. And so based upon those factors and your performance in college and recommendations, the admissions office makes a decision whether you get admitted to school. Now, I must say, less emphasis is now placed on the exam portion. And I think schools are tending to look a little less on that aspect of it and look at more how you perform in college and the recommendations. And that's going to be fine. I think a lot helpful to get more minority students in law school.
Okay. Now I know you have to practice law, you have to pass the bar test also, right?
Right. Yeah, it's another exam. Always being tested. Yeah. But once you finish your law school, when you become a lawyer, you have to take the bar exam. It's a 2-day exam. The first day was multiple choice examination. Second day is essay writing. and you pass the bar, you get admitted. But to become a judge in this state, you had to practice at least 7 years before you become eligible to become a judge, at least in Superior Court anyway. But you're always being tested, and so it's always important to be prepared to do the best you can and constantly challenge yourself. And I can't tell you how important it is to read, read, and read. And you know, I'm amazed about talking to some students, high school students, who never read a newspaper. I mean, they get their news from other sources, but they never actually pick up a newspaper, and read what's important, not only in the daily news columns, but in the opinion columns. But I think it's important that you keep abreast of current events and not just rely upon the television media to get all your information. So that's what I would encourage students to do. Read and write. Read, read, and write.
Last question, Judge Bass. Do you know of someone who went to law school and opted not to take the bar exam and use their law education to do something other than be a lawyer as a profession?
Yeah, I do know some folks who've done other things. I'm trying to think of somebody here locally that that's done that. Now, well, she does something law related, but she's not actually practicing law. Is the clerk of the Superior Court.
Okay.
Tammy Mosley, who's the Superior Court clerk, is a lawyer. She graduated from law school, passed the bar, but then decided she'd rather get into the administrative portion of the justice system instead, and is now the clerk of Superior Court. That's one example I can think of. There are some other folks who I know who either practice corporate law or business banking law, and they're lawyers as well. A friend of mine, his name is Robert James III, who is who's affiliated with Carver State Bank. And it's one of the major minority-owned lending institutions in the country. And he's a lawyer, but he doesn't practice law. He practices banking and finance, and I mean, that's his profession area. And he also obtained an MBA. But those two examples I think are right offhand.
Okay. Well, Judge Bass, I'm gonna let you have the final words. Are there any encouraging words you have for young students interested in law?
Study, study, study. And I want to quote somebody else. Frederick Douglass was asked a question in the later years of his life, after emancipation, after the whole period of Reconstruction, what should young people do? And he asked the question: agitate, agitate, agitate.
Okay.
Be involved. Challenge the system. Find different ways at improving and reforming what's happening to our people. And I can't think of any wiser words than the words of Frederick Douglass in that regard.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, Judge Bass, on behalf of the Megagenesis Committee, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to give us information on the law profession. Thank you.
All right, thank you.